Greenpeace has again criticized Eskom for continuing to build coal power stations, and a second police officer is expected to be called to the stand in the trial of Thandi Maqubela and her co-accused in the Western Cape High Court. Ambusisiwa Khatebe with the latest news update. Greenpeace has again criticized South Africa's power utility Eskom for continuing to build coal power stations in spite of scientific evidence that shows coal increases greenhouse gases that cause climate change. Eskom continues planning to build more coal power plants. Melita Steele is a spokesperson for Greenpeace Africa.
More than 90% of South Africa's electricity actually comes from coal. And South Africa is the world's 5th largest producer of coal and is already the 6th largest consumer. South Africa has a massive dependency on coal, with more than 90% of our electricity coming from coal. And unfortunately, we're behind when it comes to renewables. So less than 1% of our electricity comes from renewables. So what Eskom is doing is building Medupi and Kusile, which are going to be 2 of the biggest coal-fired power stations in the world. They're each going to be 4,800 megawatts and will increase South Africa's emissions profile substantially.
Eskom recently signed a 1.9 billion rand loan agreement with the World Bank to finance its renewable energy projects, a wind power plant in the Western Cape and a solar power plant in the Northern Cape. South Africa says the setting up of a green climate fund at the UN climate change talks, COP17, is still on track. In Cancun, Mexico last year, parties agreed that a fund should be set up which will channel about $100 billion per year by 2020. This is to help developing countries adapt to climate change. But putting the fund into operation was left up to the talks in Durban. Environmental Minister Edna Molewa explains what happened at the last meeting between the 40 countries tasked with doing that.
There were 2 countries which were still not happy. What we know is that those countries said, we are not quite happy, but we will not stand in the way of this decision. So the meeting then adopted the decision as it was to go forward with the proposals of setting up this Green Climate Fund. So I'm really trying to illustrate that there was, in our view, sufficient consensus to take us forward.
Police at KwaNokuthula near Plattenberg Bay in the Southern Cape have used stun grenades to disperse a crowd of about 300 people who had gathered at the local police station demanding the release of 3 people arrested in connection with the death of a 37-year-old man. The deceased allegedly killed 7-year-old Siphokazi Nini on Sunday. Police spokesperson Malcolm Boki says the men aged between 30 and 45 were arrested late last night following the alleged mob killing of Derek Chwati. Boki says they are investigating both murders and more arrests are expected. The 3 men are expected to appear in the local magistrate's court soon. And lastly, a second police officer is expected to be called to the stand in the trial of Thandi Maqubela and Vela Mabena in the Western Cape High Court. The pair is on trial in connection with the death of acting Cape Judge Patrick Maqubela in June 2009. It's alleged they were the last people to visit the judge before his body was discovered in his luxury Bantry Bay apartment. Cross-examination of Detective Etienne van Eed, the first police officer on the scene, was concluded yesterday. Van Eed conceded yesterday that the judge's death was treated differently because of his high profile. He earlier testified that he did not suspect murder when he reacted to the call-out and that there were no signs of strangulation. Catch the latest news anytime here on Newsbreak, Option 1.